Greg Abbott obviously is doing everything he can to try to undo a mess that he has made. But let's make no mistake about it. What Greg Abbott has ruled is that families do not deserve to know where these dangerous chemicals are stored. And there's absolutely no excuse for that.
Joining us now for the interview tonight is the Democratic candidate for governor of Texas. She's running against Greg Abbott. She's State Senator Wendy Davis. Senator Davis, thanks very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Rachel.
So why do you think that Greg Abbott is wrong on this chemicals decision, and what would you do differently?
Well, there's no mistaking that he's wrong. And as you said earlier, for decades in Texas, it's been our practice to comply with the law that President Reagan helped to shepherd through, the Community Right to Know Act, because parents deserve to know whether they are living or their children are going to school or their parents might be in a nursing home that's next to one of these facilities that stores dangerous chemicals. And there's simply no excuse for suddenly reversing course in what the state has done for decades in compliance with that law and hiding that information from parents across this state.
Is this one of those issues?
As governor,
I'm sorry, let me just interrupt you there for a second. Is this one of those issues where I'm looking at this from New York and you're looking at it from Texas, and there's some weird ideological rift about this story that I can't see? There's some mysterious Texas Republican ideological attitude that makes them opposed to something like that, even though they would have supported it in the Reagan era? Do you know what's driving this change?
You know, I think when you look at what drove the change with Abbott, you need to look no further than the campaign contributions that he's received from the Koch brothers, who have at least one of these facilities that stores these dangerous chemicals in the state of Texas.
What would you do differently as governor?
As governor, and as I laid out today in a couple of press conferences that I've held, I will call for an emergency item to be placed on the legislative calendar so that this issue can immediately be taken up and addressed by the Texas legislature before the typical 60-day period of time that it takes for legislation to be considered, and for the legislature to act in a way that gives true meaning, once again, to the Community Right to Know Act and empowers Texas families with information to help keep their families safe and to make decisions about where they'll live and where they'll put their children in school, to give our school districts the ability to decide where to build their schools, where hospitals should be built, where nursing homes should be built, so that we can assure as much as possible that communities across this state are safe.
Texas Governor Rick Perry has recently said that in terms of the border crisis in Texas and along the southern border of the United States, he thinks there is a conspiracy behind it. He thinks it's on purpose. Tomorrow, he's meeting with President Obama on the issue. I know that you have called on Governor Perry to call a state of emergency on the border. Why do you want that? What would that do?
It is a term of art, essentially, in Texas, which allows the release of resources to help the local communities that are bearing the burden and the costs of taking care of this influx of people from across the border. I've asked for a special session that would hear from our local communities, from first responders, from charitable organizations who are on the ground and who are taking care primarily of these children who are unaccompanied minors and who have been coming in literally by the hundreds every single day, and who are under the care of many incredible people doing amazing work, but who need to have the cost for that care covered. Ultimately, it's the federal government's responsibility. And not only have I called on Governor Perry asking for a special session to be called so that we can deal with this at the state level and do our part in helping our local communities, but that ultimately the federal government do its job and that it reimburse us for those costs. I was very pleased to hear President Obama call today for $3.7 billion to be brought to these border communities and to help supplement and make sure that they are safe, that our Border Patrol officers can do their job, and that they can assure that drug smugglers and human traffickers are the real focus of our Border Patrol officers, as they should be, and that the government should also, of course, make sure that we're doing what we can to, as I said, help reimburse these local communities for the costs that they're bearing.
Texas State Senator Wendy Davis, Democratic candidate for governor in the state of Texas. Thanks very much for being with us tonight. I know you're very busy.
Thanks
very much. I appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Thank you.